Welcome back to Property Deconstructed with Pat Panetta. That's me, and Mark Garichello from Master Advocates. This podcast and videocast is all about the world of property and helping people navigate the sometimes confusing world of property, but it's an interesting place to be and to discuss.
Yeah, correct. Thanks again, Pat. Great to be here, and it is about the collective wisdom, and our guests really help share that wisdom and education for property professionals, but also property investors, yes, renters, property buyers, home ownership. So, and today we've joined with a second episode with the Real Estate Institute of Victoria, President Jacob Caine.
Thanks for coming back, guys. Jacob, you were pretty passionate in the last episode about the government sort of demonising and sort of pitting landlords against renters, and we need to work together. We spoke about a long-term strategy as well. It's good to be passionate about this, and we need to make some noise and get the message out there. Jacob?
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree more, Pat. And look, it's not limited. I don't like to finger point just at the government. It's that kind of narrative of the adversarial relationship between rental provider and renter is I think it's fueled to a certain extent in the media as well, because those are the kind of interesting stories. If you hear about the typical kind of horrible landlord who
yes.
is a slumlord, and then you've got the horrible renter who's trashed the place and disappeared and not paid their rent for 6 months. Like, they're the kind of stories that sell. So I 100% understand why they attract so much attention, but they, to our earlier conversation, they're not representative.
No, the facts of the matter that's not the case. They're not sort of land barons, as was said on the radio this morning as well. They're mum and dad investors. Yeah, that's right. And they're real people, who have real concerns and real cares and genuine sort of relationships that with their tenants when the opportunity avails themselves with their renters. And what kind of role does the REIV play, I suppose, in addressing that? Our members, to my mind, and I think this would be shared by the membership, we kind of demarcate ourselves from potential other sectors of the industry by really having a strong adherence to ethics, a strong adherence to professional development, a strong appetite for improving the practices and the reputation of the industry and those participating in it. We see ourselves as professionals. And when you have that attitude, when you have that state of mind, when you have that discipline and dedication to your craft, the result is better outcomes for renters and rental providers, because the quality of the service that you deliver, the attention to detail, the care and the expertise that you display on a day-to-day basis reassure people on who are renters or rental providers. They give them confidence that what's being said to them is accurate. They trust and build and develop relationships. And when trust is shared between a rental provider, a renter, and their representative, their agent, then generally speaking, what follows is a harmonious existence and great living conditions.
Yeah, and I think those points and the points from the last episode where the wedge driving between that balance is not just the regulations, but also, Jacob, you pointed out lack of investment in social housing. There's lack of investment in infrastructure, which drives where people can get access to employment, where they can live, key amenities, and then also the property taxes, that quick and easy tax that drives the investors away as well. So that really has to find a balance, not just demonising one section, a balance and quickly, rather than waiting for these long-term housing statement plans. Even if they reach a 50% of that target, it's going to be too little too late.
And the REIV engages in some training and pushing out the bad operators and encouraging the good ones to get the ecosystem right. On the real estate side anyway, and I guess even on the other side, the renter side, we want to make sure that on both sides the right culture and attitude is there, so we can get that ecosystem right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I was It's you touched on the word culture there, and I think the other factor, I suppose, and it's a significant one in where we're at today in 2023, right, is to my mind, we're in a sort of transitionary phase, right, where the concept of longer term, even lifelong renting is starting to become more prevalent, right? Now, that is something pretty foreign to our country. We've always been, the Australian dreams, the 4-bedroom house on the 800 square meter block, a couple of cars in the driveway, maybe a pool in the backyard, right? We've been in that luxurious space where that's been the expectation, the assumption, right, for such a long period that's what you aspire to. But right now, because of a variety of different factors, one of which is obviously supply and housing affordability, but also just a different view on life, right? A different attitude and a different culture. There are people today that may have the means to go and buy a property but may never want that, because they want that mobility. They want to go, I want to move here and I want to see that and I want to be able to uproot and go wherever. I don't need a house. I'm not as invested in having the full family, right? So we're changing. And what that translates into is a kind of a need for adaptation around, right, what the standards are, what the laws are, what the rights are on either side of the equation. And again, I'm not saying, that to put it in that adversarial context, but they're, like we said, it's an ecosystem. Now, I think, right, that expectations have shifted around what renters should be entitled to, and many of them are completely valid, right? But I also think there's a complete lack of consultation with the broader renting population around what they actually want, right? So you have renters groups out there that purport to represent the key drivers, the key protections that renters want, right? And one of those things that's spoken about a lot is a longer term leases, for example, like a 5 or a 6 year lease, a 10-year lease, hypothetically. Now, I can tell you the vast majority of my investment clients, rental providers, if that they wouldn't be adverse to a 5 or a 10-year lease. I think they might like it, a bit of stability. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And if there's like a commercial lease, if there were built-in rental increases year on year out, right? They don't have to pay us every time they lease the property. Yes. They don't have to market the property, right? It's much better for them financially. If they've got a great tenant in there for 10 years who loves living in the property, right? But there aren't that many tenants that actually want that.
Yes.
Right? I can tell you, if I polled 1,000 of our renters right today, I reckon there'd be 15% tops that would be interested in anything longer than 12 months. Yeah. Most of our renters, when it gets to 12 months, right, and the fixed term expires, they want to stay on a month to month, right? Because they want the flexibility to be able to go, all right, I don't want to live in East Melbourne anymore. I want to live in St Kilda. All right, if I get a job offer in Sydney, I want to go to Sydney and I don't want any penalty for that. So we really need to reconcile what people actually want. And this is part of a cultural shift, which we're only coming to terms with, I think, as a society right now.
I think really good points. And what I was interpreting there or thought was that it's more about choices. If you want a 2-year lease or 12-month or 10-year lease, like you could be near retirement age and healthy and fit and independent and not want to go into a independent living place and want a 10-year lease with a private investor. Yeah, you want those choices in life, and so maybe more of a bento box approach. Have a choice, and my dad always used to say, "Don't tell me how to suck eggs." By over regulation, over taxing, and sort of closing the walls in on someone just going to make them run away.
Yeah. And the point that Jacob was making too about understanding what they really want, and understanding what the reality is, what people want. But on the duration of the lease, you can negotiate with your owner if you stay 12, 24, 5 years, or how does that work? I mean, are you just told this is a 6-month lease, or if you say that you're going to stay any less than 12 months, maybe you get pushed down the line? I mean, How do we get that bento
what I was kind
back?
of referring to, like obliquely, there is that we've kind of set expectations. There's
Right.
nothing that prohibits
Okay.
a renter from getting a 10-year lease, right? Or an owner giving a 10-year lease, right? But the default, the expectation is, we go short and then
Right.
and we haven't, I think Mark's point's really bang on there. Like, give options. Like, let's have an open conversation about this. Let's find the owners that are comfortable with and open to longer term leases, and let's find the renters out there that are happy to do it, and let's talk about that. And similarly, for people that want shorter term leases, right? Well, you can't have your cake and eat it, right? And this is the thing. It's really hard to reconcile some of the demands for rights or protections on either side of the equation, rental providers and renters, right? When they have conflicting things. So it's not really reasonable to be granted the kind of provisions, right, that someone occupying a property for 10 years might get when you only want to be there for 6 months, right? That's not very fair. Yes. You couldn't expect the owner to build a new deck for you on the property when you're only going to be there for 6 months. If you were going to be there for 10 years, right, and you'd been there for 5 years before that, and the renter came and said, hey, what about, let's go 50-50 on a deck? I reckon it would improve the value. You have those conversations. Right, but we don't have a climate right now. It's default, and it's on both sides of the equation. I've got owners that would say, "Oh, I don't know about a long-term lease. Like, I don't want to get stuck with a bad tenant, right? When they've never had a bad tenant in their 15 years of investing, they've had 15 great tenants, one every year." But it's about shifting that mindset and adjusting to, I think to Mark's point was bang on. Like, let's give people options. Let's offer the bento box.
I still want my retractable hose. When I was renting in Caulfield, did I put in there a flash retractable hose?
You hung up.
After you kicked me out after 12 months, and it's still there. I'm still thinking, I shouldn't have
put
the hose in.
You've got to let it go. Yeah, no, but it's true, though, because even from, I think you mentioned earlier, Jake, some tenants want to stay lifelong tenants. Quinton pointed to that as well. And even from the buyers advocacy space, and I speak to other colleagues in that space, there's more rent investors, like even say from Sydney, where they'll rent where they want to work, want to live. Rents are high already, buying opportunities are out of their budget, so they'll invest in Melbourne, and they'll pick up a good investment in Melbourne with that long-term gain, long-term buy and hold strategy in Melbourne for an investment, and they've got no plans to buy to occupy.
Yep. Well, maybe, guys, all of this, just as we sort of wrap it up, all of this impending sort of crisis and this thing that we're addressing, maybe this is an opportunity to get the REIV voice out there and get the right message out there and change the culture. Maybe that's where this is all heading, we hope. Touch wood, I know it's a bit scary, but maybe we can start to change the mindset and use this as a turning point to get to a better place. Well, now that you're on Property Deconstructed with Mark Arichello and Pat Panetta, that's it. It'll just go viral now, and the change will come.
No, thank you so much. If there was anything else to add, please feel welcome to share it now. But I thought good opportunity to mention the REIV. I'm already obviously preaching to the choir, but we know that the training department and education pathways for young professionals, if they're not REIV members, accredited training licensed members, and if you wanted to share a little bit about the different programs there and where they can go to find out more.
Yeah, I just echo that. There's a massive year for the REIV coming up. Some really big projects which will transform in some ways what the REIV is and what it does and is capable of doing into the future. Just be a part of that. Yeah, we've got a massive base membership, but we can be representative of the full industry and take that heft into the corridors of Spring Street, out to the community, and have some really positive influence for this sector, for everyone. And we see, we're a membership organisation first and foremost, right? But if you touch property, then you're a stakeholder in the REIV, and everyone touches property in Victoria, right? Everyone's impacted by the things that we argue for, that we advocate for. So become a part of that, get involved, and we'll have better outcomes for everyone.
Wonderful. I want to become a member, actually.
Yes, you're not an agent,
you're right.
but you can be an affiliate member of some sort.
Okay, well, I'm in. Good on you guys. Great discussion.
Thank you so much.
Really good. REIV President Jacob Caine, thanks for joining us on our podcast. Thank you, guys.
Thanks
for having us.